Thursday is here, just a few days away from the weekend, and already we've got a full slate of things to talk about. We need to talk briefly about a major win that the Oklahoma Sooners got yesterday evening. We already made a video on it. We talked about it yesterday, previewing the Danny Okoye commitment. But today, since it's already happened, we need to briefly talk about that, talk about what it means for the Sooners and every team involved. After that, we need to turn our attention to the Texas Longhorns as they take on Baylor, and we need to discuss what Texas has to do, not only to find success against Baylor, that's a microcosm of the conversation, but we need to talk about what Texas needs to do to find lasting success through the season and be the team they want to be. After that, we need to turn our attention to Texas A&M taking on Auburn in a game that Jimbo Fisher, they have got to win. They're a team that's more talented than the Auburn Tigers if we look at what they've been able to acquire on paper, but it's not a game you feel like is a gimme, and that could be problematic. As you guys come in here, be sure to hop in, chat. Let me know what y'all are feeling. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday morning, and with that, let's dive right into it. We're going to start briefly with the Danny Okoye commitment. Look, this kid is really, really gifted, and I don't say this often, but he's a guy that comes in as a top 150 player in the nation who genuinely might be underrated. If you send him to an IMG, to a Modern Day, to a St. John Bosco, he's probably a top 50 player in the nation. And I don't think that there's too much pushback from that, right? I mean, he's a guy that has got all the abilities you would want. There's a reason why Texas was after him. There's a reason why Alabama wanted him so bad. There's a reason why Tennessee wanted him so bad. Everybody that's seen this young man up close and personal has been blown away, and it's the Oklahoma Sooners that get a big win. Now, for Tennessee, they still have five-star edge committed in their class, Jordan Ross from the state of Alabama, but I can imagine that the Crimson Tide are going to be chipping away at Jordan Ross. The Crimson Tide have been able to stack up a ton of edge talent. So this cycle is one that I'm watching because they've gone so many cycles in a row signing a great edge class. This could be the cycle where they kind of sit back and don't get any of those guys. Because of that, we need to watch what happens with Tennessee. We know that they have five-star Jordan Ross, very talented player. He's from the state of Alabama. Like I just said, I think he's a name to watch if you're wondering who Alabama could push for. But we also know that Tennessee is interested in adding in some more talent along that defensive front. So it's going to be interesting to see how they pivot. If we look at the Texas Longhorns, if you're a Longhorns fan, you really don't have to pivot at all. In fact, you can sit there and say, okay, we didn't land Okoye. We would have loved to have landed Okoye. He is an absolute guy we could have had contribute to this defense and be a playmaker, but we have Colin Simmons, we have Umazulu. We feel fantastic about where we sit because you have the number one edge rusher in the nation, Colin Simmons, and that ranking, in my opinion, is very much well justified. That was the biggest need for Texas. So for the Horns, you're already feeling like you're in a good position, but what about for the Oklahoma Sooners? Because the biggest area of need for Oklahoma was this defensive front, and I don't think it quite frankly mattered whether we're talking about edge guys or interior guys, though I think there was a larger emphasis on the interior. However, at the point where you get David Stone, where you get Jaden Jackson, where you get Nigel Smith, now you feel like, okay, for this class, those three names right there, though we'd love to continue adding names, those are three names that we feel good about moving forward. So Oklahoma is in a position where they've added those three guys in, and now they're looking at the edge positions, wondering how they can make a complete line. Well, a great way to be able to assemble a complete line, go get that man, Danny Okoye. That's exactly what they did. Puts Oklahoma as a top 10 recruiting class in the nation, specifically coming in at number 7. We talked about that last night when he had originally committed. And this is a great place for Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners to be. A top 10 class, nearly full, sitting at 24 prospects. Plenty of time in front of you, plenty of opportunity in front of you, and you're still chipping away at some big name players. So big win for the Oklahoma Sooners. Excited to see Danny Okoye continue to grow as a football player, and really excited to see what he does once he gets to a college campus, because that's when I think we're really going to see Danny Okoye come into his own. But let's move forward, because we need to talk about Texas Baylor this weekend. This is a game where, look, when I think about this game, I honestly don't give it much of a second thought. The Texas Longhorns should come into this game, handle business, and beat Baylor handedly. This is not the Baylor that was contending for the Big 12. This is a vastly different Baylor team. They are in shambles right now. Texas is in a position where they feel like not only are they in a contention to win the Big 12, You talk to some Texas fans, they feel like if they play a complete brand of football, the college football playoffs are right in front of them. In fact, if they win the Big 12, it'd be hard for them to be out of the college football playoffs, especially with the uncertainty all across college football. So this is a game where Texas should beat Baylor handedly. It's a state matchup, so you want to stamp your state as you're leaving for the SEC. But there's something that's raised its head with the Texas Longhorns time and time again. And to be fair, we're seeing Steve Sarkisian and this staff try and go about correcting it. And that's playing complete football games. For years now, under Steve Sarkisian, we've talked about how you have got to be able to weather the storm that is the first half. And if you're able to do that, you have a chance in this game. But as time has gone on, and especially this year, now we're seeing Texas is a solid first half team. They're not great. They're not bad. But when they get into the second half, and specifically that fourth quarter, that's when they come alive and they start playing big boy football. And I truly do mean that. They start playing a physical brand of football. They start leaning into you, and everything starts clicking. And that, in one sense, is great to see because it was such a big question going into this year, including from myself, someone who has been a little bit of a Steve Sarkisian apologist. I've defended Steve Sarkisian. I've argued that Steve Sarkisian, I believe, is the right guy. I believe that this staff is the right staff for Texas. But the one area I had to admit must be fixed going into this year was Texas not playing complete games. And to a degree, we have seen that fixed because it's not like you have the problematic point differential in the first half that you were experiencing in the fourth quarter. Texas's point differential under Steve Sarkisian in the fourth quarter was pretty bad up until this year. And this year, they look like a different football team in the fourth quarter. So that is a positive. In a roundabout way, that is an absolute positive because you're not playing terrible football in the first half. You're playing really good football in the second half. But for the Texas Longhorns to get to the land that they feel like they can go to, they have got to play a complete brand of football. Instead of Texas allowing other teams to dictate which type of football they will play, it is up to the Texas Longhorns to dictate that they will play Texas Longhorn football. That means it doesn't matter if you're playing Baylor. You will make them play Texas Longhorn football. It doesn't matter who you play. You make them play your brand of football. And we've seen Texas do this in the second half, in the fourth quarter. But this is a team that we saw last year do it in the first half. So you know the ability is there. Ladies and gentlemen, when Texas puts it all together, they are going to be a really fun team to watch. And I know for the Oklahoma fans in here, you don't want to hear that because there's this amazing, beautiful rivalry between y'all's two programs, something that I love as much as I love any other rivalry in college football because I grew up right on the Red River. I grew up hearing it from both sides, which made me have such a deep appreciation. And I was on the outside looking in. So I got to just sit here as a neutral observer and soak in the rivalry. And it was fantastic. So I know me saying that this Texas team, if they play a complete brand of football, they're a fun team. But it's the truth. It is the truth. Let's be 100% honest here. Doesn't matter who we root for right now. Let's enter into this conversation. No bias here. The Texas Longhorns have an offensive line that you have got to like in terms of some of the personnel. They have got a really solid wide receiver room. Running backs have come along. Baxter's a guy I think is going to be really good, but Jonathan Brooks is showing everybody why so many across the state of Texas, including myself, kept saying, hey, I know Bijan's not there. I know Roshan's not there. And I know that's a big hit. There's no way to argue it's not a big hit, especially when you look at what Bijan's doing in the NFL and you realize he doesn't need perfect run blocking. He is an enigma. But Jonathan Brooks is a very, very, very talented running back. That much is becoming very apparent. And then if we look at the defensive side, guys, right now the Big 12 has two of the most fun linebackers in the nation. Right? There's actually 4 or 5 linebackers on the nation right now that I don't know how they're going to choose first-team linebackers this year because there is some unbelievable linebacker play happening in college football right now. First off, hats off to Danny Stutzman. He is playing like a man possessed. You can't watch an OU game and not see 28 around the tackle. I've tried. And it's just impossible. If you see a guy getting tackled, odds are 28 is someone near it. But so too does Texas have a guy in Jalen Ford, who is a superb athlete, one of the most instinctual linebackers in college football. Jant Sports said that over here on our show. 100% correct. Great take by Jance as always. Guy's very talented. And then you look at the secondary. I mean, Jahdae Barron is playing like a man possessed, right? I think that the Texas safeties are good. I think there's openings to attack them there. Thompson has been playing a good brand of football, but Jahdae Barron is playing like a man possessed. My goodness gracious. Like, seriously, guys, he's baiting interceptions. He's baiting quarterbacks. He's playing. Not only do we know he's a very athletic individual, but now he's really just showing off the football IQ. Like, just showing it off, flexing on everybody in college football, showing them this is my understanding of the game. Very impressive. That young man is doing some very impressive things right now. So this is a Texas team that has got all the talent you could want, and it's being led by a quarterback that was a former 5-star. So that's something we have got to see. Texas has got to play a full, congruent brand of football. And it's something that we haven't seen them do, but it's something that hopefully they will be able to do. Because they have the pieces. If we look top to bottom, the talent is there. But it has got to come together for the Texas Longhorns. And what better time for it to come together than right as you enter into conference play? If you want your team to start hitting their stride, the best time to do it is right when we enter the conference play. This is a great opportunity for the Texas Longhorns to show the Big 12, to show college football. We are the team we held ourselves out to be. So this is something we have got to watch. Texas versus Baylor. It's a game that Texas should absolutely shellac Baylor. They should walk them up and down the field. But we have got to see. I understand, it's tough when you play opponents that maybe you have to play down towards. But you need to be playing your brand of football regardless of who's in front of you. And that's what we need to see from Texas. Let's hit some comments. Didn't think Texas would, yeah, true. Yeah, that's your up front. Texas has, yeah. See, odd future. I don't know what it is, right? Because I've talked, yeah, no doubt. Well, that's because I don't want to say, I don't know that Quinn is a guy you can just ask to be a pocket quarterback, to just like, we have not seen him just be able to go win you a game. Like that's still one of my big questions with Texas. Quinn is fantastic. Quinn, when it's cooking, is there. But what we've seen is Sark has to really scheme the game for Quinn. And that's not problematic. The best offensive minds do it. But you're not seeing Sark just say, hey, read the entire field and read a defense. He's not asking that of Quinn. Quinn's doing reads of half the field, if reading anything. And that's when he's at his best. And when I say if reading anything, I'm talking about the screen passes, obviously. Like he has set reads. That's not, that came out a little bit wrong. Not reading anything is the screen quick passes, right? To get him into rhythm, spread the defense out east and west to attack north and south. But you're not wrong. Quinn is a guy that you need to get into rhythm. DG is a pocket quarterback. Stats show it. Dude's gonna. Yeah, he's also been in college forever, man. But he's had a crazy career. But DG he's a pocket quarterback, but he's also a mobile quarterback. Right? Like for your true pocket quarterbacks, you're typically not asking them to go run around. And DG will have like called run plays, especially this year with Jackson Arnold behind him. He is having a wild season, though. We are going to talk some Oklahoma. He's having a great season. But I completely agree, Odd. Quinn is, when he's on, he's so good. But and it I don't want to say it because I don't want to sound like a hater, because I had this question before the Alabama game. Quinn torched Alabama. He did his thing against Alabama, but now the same question comes back. Like I'm still not sure I know what type of quarterback Quinn is. I'm still not 100% sure, because I see him play like a superstar, and then the next week, it's like the easy things become incredibly difficult. And it's one thing to be able to play up to an opponent, right? That is a good thing. But at a certain point, you don't want to bank on catching fire every time, right? What I mean when I say that is, let's say you play Georgia 100 times. You don't want to be a team that's all over the place going into playing Georgia and hoping, well, we're a team that when we play good teams, we play up to them. Because you know what that tells me? You're also a team that's inconsistent. And Texas isn't that inconsistent this year because the first halves haven't been bad, but they have got to find their stride. And if Texas finds their stride, my goodness, they're going to be a super dangerous team. Super dangerous team. He's costing himself. Well, I think there's an argument you don't come out this year if you're Quinn. There's not a GM that's taking him over Drake May. You show me a GM that does that, I'm going to show you a GM that's getting fired. You're not taking him over Caleb. Are you taking him over Jaden Daniels? Because I'm watching Jaden Daniels put a team on his back, willing them to victory. We'll see. Like I said, when he's clicking, he is a dude. He is fantastic. The problem is, it's been more of the same. 6 drop passes didn't help Quinn much last week. True, Mark, but at a certain point, doesn't it come to a position where we're bringing up the same things over and over again? Like, you're not wrong, but like, and I'm not saying that's a Quinn problem. I'm saying, like, I've talked about this with Alabama. The drops, that's an issue. And this is the 3rd year it's been an issue. So at a certain point, I don't even know that I can call it an excuse anymore, because it's something we knew Alabama had trouble with, was drops. I've been hearing from Texas fans about drops for 3 years now. I'm in the same boat as y'all, because Bama, we dropped everything. But you are right. Like, that stuff is not good for getting a quarterback in rhythm. It's one of those things where you would hope that your quarterback, who is the number 1 quarterback in 2 different recruiting classes, would be able to respond, and not have to be so heavily schemed for. Which, like I said, there's nothing wrong with scheming heavily for your quarterback. That's what all the best offensive minds do it. But we really see when that scheme doesn't go right, there's a definite sputter. There's a definite sputter. Sure, Mark, but I guess at this point, okay, I'm going to put it like this, Mark. Here's how I'm going to frame the question, right? So I work for a factory that produces bouncy balls. I'm going to send out 100 bouncy balls. Of the 100 bouncy balls, or actually, you know what? Let me do some quick math real fast. That way we can be as accurate as possible here. Because this is an interesting conversation. It's one I've been thinking about. I had here we go. So, okay, if I have 55 bouncy balls, Mark, and I send them out, and you get all 55 of them, and 43 of the 55 are black, 12 of the 55 are blue, and I tell you, hey, we had a problem at the factory where the paint isn't taking, and like, it's not the color it's supposed to be. Which color would you say was the outlier? The blue or the black? Sharp Sport Shooters podcast says, I truly believe they're getting upset by Oklahoma if they play anything. Yeah. Look, Oklahoma's playing a good brand of football right now. I'm very excited. Yeah. Chicken. I didn't think it through, but let's skirt past it. Basically, the reason why I say that, Mark, is because we've had a similar conversation about Quinn over and over and over again. And at a certain point, it's just gotta happen. Like, you're not a freshman anymore. You're not a cat that was a 3-star that needed to be developed like tremendously. You were a 5-star, perfect rated quarterbacks in 2 classes, and you have one of the best offensive minds working for you, one of the best quarterback minds working with you. And still, we're talking about up and down all around. Like, at a certain point, I know he's great, but it has got to be great all the time. I said this the other day. You don't want a part-time employee doing the CEO's job. You got to have the guy that goes in every single day with the lunch pail ready to work. And when he's there, my God, like, this is where I do concede, guys. When Quinn is on, there's not many quarterbacks that offer the same capabilities he does. When he's on, when he's feeling himself, he will drop dimes from anywhere. In fact, he has one of the most beautiful throws I've seen in years. That moonshot touchdown against Alabama. That's one of the prettiest balls I've seen in years. That's one of the prettiest throws, prettiest placement, the way he did, I've seen in years. The way he made it go so high, that way the receiver could continue running under it because the coverage wasn't terrible. It was a perfect throw. You couldn't script it any better. I couldn't have made the throw in Madden. So it's time. It is time for the Texas Longhorns. It's time for Quinn. It's time for everybody to be the team, to be the players we think they can be, because they have a bright future in front of them, a very bright future in front of them. No doubt, Shadow. That's why I at the very end, I went on to say it's got to be everything, right? It's got to be everything. Coach Sarkisian could help Quinn by calling more middle range and intermediate passes. Well, David, you're not wrong. And I would have to go back and really watch that Wyoming game, the opening script. But I will say that's exactly what he did versus Alabama. I mean, Quinn's first pass was a quick ball. So you're certainly right here. 100% right there. Even O-line still getting penalties. Yeah. Yeah. At least you don't have an offensive line that's giving up 5.5 sacks to USF. We don't know anything about that. But that's neither here nor there, and that's going to make me sad. So let's move forward. We need to talk Texas A&M because, boy, you want to talk about a team that needs this win bad. I think if we're asking about teams that are playing Power 5 wins, if we are talking about teams that are playing conference games, I mean, I'm interested in hearing from y'all. Give me some teams, some games you think where a win is more necessary than this Texas A&M Auburn game. Texas A&M was in a position where they got beat down by Miami. And Miami was a team that was more physical than Texas A&M. They were faster than Texas A&M. They were playing a more violent brand of football than was Texas A&M. And yet, whenever we look at this, Texas A&M, you still feel like, man, you guys have got so much talent. There's no excuse for it not to be coming together. One of the things that puzzles me the most about Texas A&M is this. I have been on a mountain screaming for years that it perplexes me that Texas A&M is ran by an offensive-minded head coach, yet for years, the best part about that team was the defense. Time and time again, whenever we'd be doing our Texas A&M previews, you wouldn't catch me talking tremendously about the offense. I'd be talking about a few players. We'd be talking about A-Chain. We'd be talking about Anaya Smith, Kellen Mond, the guys who would make a difference. But the majority of your conversation would revolve around that Texas A&M defense. How are you going to move the ball on them? What are you going to be able to do to attack that defense? Fast forward to this year. They found an offense. They're moving the ball. They're scoring. Now their defense is terrible. It's not good. And I'm being facetious when I say it, but you get the point. The secondary needs help. And we know what Hugh Freeze is as an offensive mind. He is a dangerous play caller. Now, the reason why I think if you're Texas A&M, you can use this as a bounce back game, as a get right game, especially in the SEC, is I just don't look at Auburn right now and think you have the talent top to bottom to just contend with a Texas A&M at Kyle Field. At Kyle Field. And I think that's an important distinction to be made. I would view this game a little bit differently if it was not at Kyle Field, just looking at the way I just saw Texas A&M play on the road against Miami. And I've said this before, OU fans, Texas fans, you're about to learn. You're about to learn the hard way. Jordan Hare's cursed. Go have fun in that stadium. I dare you. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go have fun. Go have fun. Come back to me after the game. And I guarantee you'll all be on my side about this. Right. Shadow, I got to disagree, man. Baylor's terrible. Baylor is not good. Nah, that's a game you guys need to roll. I have to vehemently disagree. I watched Baylor get put into a blender by Texas State. And Texas State's a good program. They've been trending in a good direction for a while. But nah, y'all should skull drag them. Respectfully. Like, y'all should beat them down pretty handedly. And look, I know that weird things will happen. It is a sport. You're 100% right. Amanda Nunez was a massive favorite against Juliana Pena. Someone put in a $300,000 bet to win $30,000, and Juliana Pena goes in there and whoops Amanda Nunez. So you're not wrong. It is a sport. Y'all are so much more talented than they are. You're so much better off from an offensive attack perspective, from a defensive perspective. Y'all should destroy Baylor and beat Florida State. Yeah, it's tough to say. I don't have Clemson beating Florida State in this game because I just don't think that the Clemson offense provides enough in terms of multiples for Florida State to have to really be concerned. Right? Like, that's the thing that worries me the most about Clemson. It's just that their offense is very one-dimensional right now. And maybe they'll find themselves. Maybe they'll find themselves, but Boston College is a team that has, over the previous 10 years, for whatever reason, I always remember Boston College as being a team that's going to play a disciplined brand of football. And we've talked about this. You play a disciplined brand of football, you can catch some teams. Now, that being said, Florida State did not play great. But I still would pick Florida State in that game, Blood, just because the outside talent they have, Keon Coleman, and the other wide receiver they have, plus the tight end they have. The running game hasn't gotten going, but I do like their running back. I do, whenever he gets some space, he's got some juice. Clemson has Shipley. He's very talented. But that offense has struggled so much. Oh, Odd, you're 100% right, my brother. It's still a Jimbo problem. Their smiling-ass defensive coordinator did well at Ole Miss when he was there. But Durkin, man, like, do y'all realize how wild this staff is? Just from, like, a drama perspective. You have DJ Durkin, you have Bobby Petrino, and you have Jimbo Fisher. Wow. Now, look, in terms of football, there's not a bad staff. But in terms of football drama, my goodness gracious. You're asking for ESPN to be parked outside that building. You're definitely asking for ESPN. So let's refocus on this game, Texas A&M Auburn, because Auburn's coming into this situation with a quarterback that they got out the transfer portal in Peyton Thorne from Michigan State. They're coming into this situation having played a tough game against Cal. Auburn's coming into this situation realizing that they just went on the road 2 weeks ago against Miami and got done up by Miami. Now it's your time for redemption. Now it's your time to start off conference play, looking at a compromised Auburn and being able to take advantage. Do you want to know where the problem comes in, though? Everything I have just stated, while true, is from a paper perspective. And what I mean when I say that is if we look at a piece of paper and say, who is the more talented team here, Texas A&M or Auburn, it's Texas A&M, without question. I mean, without question. I don't think anybody even takes a second more to think about that. The problem with Texas A&M, that paper talent has meant nothing. Nothing over the previous few years. And a loss to Auburn at home after you just lost to Miami, after you just got an offensive coordinator, you just got a 5-star quarterback, you've got the wide receiver talent, that would be bad. David says, I don't think that the Texas A&M defensive staff is bad. They might not be at the level of UT or OU, but it's not bad. I do think their defense has weaknesses that their secondary is bad. Their secondary is not good. Their secondary is not good. Blood says, was Bama actually a quality win for Texas? Because after 3 weeks, Bama isn't good. Well, Blood, that's kind of a odd way of framing it. Because if you're saying after 3 weeks, you only have 1 week of Bama not being good. Right? Like if we're being as honest as possible here. They have a loss to Texas, who's a ranked team, a top 5 team in the nation. And then they have 1 week of not looking good after they slaughtered a team week 1. And in the 1 week they didn't look good, they were trying to establish a passing game in a monsoon. As it was monsooning for 3/4 of that game, it led up. Bama got an ugly win that shouldn't have looked that ugly. Awful performance. Hell, I've been complaining about it since. But saying Bama's looked bad for 3 weeks, that's just not rooted in reality. They've had 1 bad week. They lost to Texas, but I don't think we can look at that Texas loss and say, see, that's a terrible Bama team. They lost to a top 3 team in the nation. So we'll see. No, I'm chilling, man. The problem with A&M starts to Jimbo. He looks like he's lost the room. It looked like he lost the room last year. Look, I've heard stories that I will not repeat. But those stories don't happen unless you've lost the room. Now, whether he's regained it, I certainly hope he has. Because I don't want Jimbo to fail. Let's get one thing very clear here. If Jimbo fails, that means the young men on that team have been done a disservice. They don't deserve that. Right? So I certainly hope they're able to get it together. But we'll see. It hasn't looked like they're a staff that I think you'd put a lot of faith in. I think he was injured. Snuffed says, possibility OU gets Zadavian Sims to flip from Oregon. Hey, it's always a possibility, Snuffed. I think the thing is, though, with Zadavian Sims, he's kind of a cat, as I understand it, somewhat like by Job, where he's in a situation where I don't know that he wants to stay in Oklahoma. Right? And there are players like this where you could put together the best pitch you could formulate, and that guy just doesn't want to stay in that state. And if that's the case, there's not much you could do. As I understand it, Zadavian Sims just wanted to see something different. He just wanted to get up out of Oklahoma. He didn't want to go to college there. If I understand it correctly, he just wanted to see something new, which is a perfectly reasonable and logical thing to do, right? I completely get that. We've heard that story time and time again. We hear the story of guys who are in a state and are like, okay, well, I would like to play home. But there's also the flip side. So look, it's certainly a possibility, Snuffed. You never, ever, ever, ever say that it's not a possibility. Because in recruiting, we've seen wild things happen. Absolutely wild things happen. Zadavian Sims is one that we would have to watch closely. Because, yeah, I could be wrong on that, but I just think that he wanted to get out of Oklahoma. You were hot yesterday morning. I mean, I'm just talking about ball. David, you're 100% right here. I'm not saying that they're terrible, just struggling in something we're not used to seeing from Bama. That's fair. That's completely fair. That's completely fair. They are struggling. And this week is a big game for Bama. The same way I talked about Tennessee, Florida last week, where I was like, guys, we don't know who Tennessee is. Like, just flat out, we do not know who Tennessee is. And I think we know who Florida is, but we're going to find out for sure who Florida is. Well, we learned two lessons. One, Napier is not going to go down without swinging. That was a beautiful game plan he had against Tennessee. Genuinely, ladies and gentlemen, a beautiful game plan. Two, Tennessee is a team that I think will be good, but they're not going to be Tennessee from last year. Well, this week, Alabama-Ole Miss is a similar game. It's a very similar game, in my opinion, in terms of us being able to download data. Who's Ole Miss? Their offense has looked real good. Their rushing attack is really impressive. But their defense has left a lot to be desired. They have struggled with mobile quarterbacks. And that's the situation we've seen time and time again. And with Alabama, when everything was clicking, they were doing fine, right? But the problem is they have not established their identity yet. And the times in which they did establish their identity, they were moving the ball. Whenever they were doing things conducive to success, they were moving the ball. It's a team in Alabama right now that looks like they were trying to use instances as scrimmages as opposed to formulating a game plan and going about implementing that game plan for 4 quarters. Bama is now in a position where now you roll Ole Miss, and now you got to come in here and play for 4 quarters. Big boy football. And this could be a good game. This is going to be a tough game for Alabama. This Ole Miss rushing attack is different. Jackson Dart is having a really good year. A really good year. They've got some wide receiver talent. They've got a whole lot of running back talent. And right now, that defensive front is generating sacks. I think they have 10 sacks through 3 weeks. So they're generating sacks. This is going to be a very, very good game. Very good game. Let's hit some comments. This year is insane. Yeah, it's a great, great, great class from Oklahoma's defensive front, for sure. From what I've heard, we lost Sims. We switched efforts to Okoye, who we landed. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure when the switch to Okoye happened, Thomas, but I do know that Sims is one of those guys. It's going to be tough to flip him back just because of the reasoning, right? Nothing that OU's done bad. They could have a great pitch. If he wants to see something else, he wants to see something else. And that's perfectly logical. You're only on this earth for so long. You might as well enjoy the time you have. Right? I think the most surprising thing has been the O-line play from Bama, 100%. Even I expected Bama not to struggle there. And run blocking is better. I'm not even going to say run blocking is good. It's not. But it's better. But it still just blows my mind that we're not calling quarterback runs. We're going away from the running game. And how many times have you seen Jalen Milrose go off in the pocket and float? Sims wasn't really from Oklahoma. I mean, yeah. Now we're splitting hairs, right? Is he in the state? The answer is yes. He's there, right? Mr. Westmess says, where does your family's quarter horses at? So we had a quarter horse ranch in Gainesville, Texas. Grew up doing quarter horses. You name it, we did it. Did a lot of quarter horse stuff. My dad was big into judging quarter horses as well. He was real big into the industry. I think he had went to 36 foreign countries, helping them establish the horse industry. Well, no, chicken. What I'm saying is, like, Stone is in Florida, right? He might be from Oklahoma. So you're right. Sims might not be from Oklahoma, but he's in the state of Oklahoma. So that gives OU a definite leg up, much the same that gave Florida, Miami, and Florida State a definite leg up for David Stone. Right? You can be from somewhere, but if that's where you're currently located, that's the area that has the advantage just from a location standpoint. Yeah, I don't care if you were there for 3 months. Were you down the road from Brent Venables and them? Like, you're not wrong, chicken, but at this point we're splitting hairs, right? Like, we're getting into a semantic battle, and it just, I think at that point it's for what? For what? Because the same thing can be said for David Stone. Yeah, he's from Oklahoma, but do you not think that him being 15 minutes, not really, but a hop, skip, and a jump from Florida, from Miami, and from Florida State didn't help their chances? Of course it did. That's one of the big reasons why Florida and Miami felt so confident about David Stone. He might not have been from Florida, but damn it if he wasn't 15 minutes from campus and they could get him on campus anytime they wanted at the hop, skip, and a jump. For Oklahoma, they had to send a plane. For Florida, they called an Uber. So yeah, he might be from Oklahoma, but that certainly helped Florida. The same with Sims, right? He might not be from Oklahoma, but his proximity really helped the Sooners. But even then, man, it's one of those situations. There are certain things where you're just not going to win a recruiting battle, right? Like it does not matter how great of a recruiter you are. And one thing we can all acknowledge, even if you're a Texas fan, the OU staff, they are elite recruiters. Let's call a spade a spade. 3 top 10 classes in a row, inheriting what they did. Like that's hyper impressive, guys. Even if you're a Texas fan, let's be honest here. That's hyper impressive. It's hyper impressive how Steve Sarkisian fixed that offensive line, how quickly he did it. But my goodness. Yeah, you know what, Neo? You're probably right. Well, no, Texas has Brahms. I got a Brahms right down from the house. All my friends in Gainesville worked for the local Brahms. I used to get out of school. All my friends would be working there, and I'd go get a free bag of burgers. But I don't think Tennessee has Brahms. But you are right, because Brahms is superior. Your son has chose a great path in life. Because Brahms is superior. I love Brahms. Is it like, I've never had Culver's, Shadow. Never had Culver's. But Brahms is delicious. They're so good. Is it that, Legion? Okay, then I'm mistaken. Neo. Fair point. I thought Brahms were all over the state of Texas. That's my fault. Hey, you know what? We're a college football podcast, Jason, but we are not boxed into that, right? I like to rip open the box. Now we're a fast food podcast. We're talking Brahms. Don't ever say I'm one-dimensional. Damn it. I give y'all quality content over here. I love y'all. Lubbock has a Brahms. It might be like one of those, oh Jesus, latitudinal lines where it's anything south of this latitudinal line. I just got Brahms for breakfast. I don't think I've ever had Brahms breakfast, but I'll tell you what. I don't know if y'all like jalapenos, but I'm going to tell you my favorite fast food burger in the world. Like Whataburgers, their 4 specialty burgers are good, but I must admit, I don't think that it holds a candle to that. I think it's the number 6 at Brahms, the jalapeno burger. Oh my gosh. Whataburger's good. Whataburger's very good. No doubt. I prefer Brahms, but like, let's be honest. Whataburger's a good burger. It is, right? It's a good burger. I think that their regular stuff is good. Like their regular menu stuff is good, but their 4 specialty stuff, like that to me, when I hear about like Whataburger, you always hear about it's the best burgers. and they're very good. But when I eat their 4 specialty burgers, that's where I'm like, okay, this makes sense to me. Like, this is a restaurant burger. Maybe not in thickness, but like just quality. It's super good tasting. Their 4 specialties are unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I'm not gonna lie, guys. Have y'all had that? What is it? What is it? It's the Southern Bacon Double at Brahms, or not at Whataburger. Go out and get the Southern Bacon Double. I think it's one of their best burgers. I love one of the things I can see, guys. I can see how many people are in here, and as we're talking about burgers, I can just see people exiting out of the live stream. Hey, what are you gonna do, man? What are you gonna do? Hey, we're a flexible channel, Bryce. We don't want to be locked in to any one box, right? I'm tearing up boxes. They told me I had to be a lawyer. I tore through that box. They told me I couldn't be a YouTuber. I tore through that box. They told me I had to do college football content. I said, bring me burgers. I'm just going to continue tearing through them. And yes, Bishop, now the problem is I'm very hungry. Yeah. Yeah. Very. Best burgers are Five Guys, Fat Burger. I don't, that's how you stay on top. Hey, man, I got to keep y'all on your toes. You know what I mean? My basic thing is I don't want you to come in here knowing what you're going to expect. Yeah, you know I'm going to be sitting here. You know I'm going to have a hat on. But outside of that, I like to keep you on your toes. Thomas, I am going to talk about this. I am going to talk about this because this is, I think you asked this earlier, and it's a great question. In-N-Out Burger is severely overrated. See, a lot of people think that, Odd Future. I like it, but it is an opinion that a lot of people hold. And I typically operate like this. Even if I disagree with an opinion that a lot of people hold, a lot of people probably hold it for a reason, right? When I eat In-N-Out, it's not that I think it's the best tasting. It just tastes super fresh to me. Right? It just tastes super, super fresh to me. Like, out of all the fast food burgers, it tastes the freshest. Now, their fries are super disappointing unless you get them in animal style. They're just not very well seasoned. They're fresh. They're just not very well seasoned, in my opinion. Yeah, I completely agree, Lance. Fries are not good. I don't know how you chop the fries fresh, fry them right there. Like, they have bags of potatoes. I don't know how you do that fresh, just like Five Guys, but they're just not good. I don't know. Okay, let's hit this right here. Thomas says, you think Gundy is going to get fired? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what I can disclose. The animal style fries, Hall of Fame, Jason, yes, unbelievable. I go crazy on some animal style fries. Actually, when I was in California, we stayed in West Hollywood for our honeymoon. I can't tell you how many nights I walked from our hotel in West Hollywood to the In-N-Out burger right there, and I was just walking around West Hollywood. But on to Gundy. I think Gundy's getting fired. I don't know what I can say and what I can't say about this right now. Because I don't know what all is going on there. But I think there's a lot of discontent at Oklahoma State right now. I know let me rephrase this. I know there's a lot of discontent at Oklahoma State right now. If you're looking around, you lost all that to the transfer portal. And you're looking at a team like a Colorado, and I get it. Coach Prime was a major catalyst. In fact, the catalyst for the hype that went there, and by extension, the turnaround that happened. But at the end of the day, you're looking around, right? Oklahoma is leaving the Big 12. You didn't exactly compete with them. Now, I've always said I consider Oklahoma State, Oklahoma to be a rivalry only because there is something more than a win and loss on the line. If you want to tell me, Ty, it's not a rivalry because Oklahoma has owned it, I completely concede that. I will concede that point to you. But understand, when I just say it's a rivalry, it's because of the way I frame rivalries. It's a game that has a history behind it. and there is something more than a simple win-loss. It's like bragging rights. So the skew of the rivalry matters a little bit less to me than the storylines, right? Like the bragging rights. But if you're someone who tells me, Ty, that's not a rivalry, OU's owned it, I'll concede that. That you won't hear a peep from me. I'll concede that point. But OU's leaving. Texas is leaving. And you don't feel like, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, you're the team that's posed to take over the Big 12. And you should be. Oklahoma State should be the team that's poised to take over the Big 12. I don't think they're that team. And in fact, every year that goes, it seems like they're getting further and further and further away. You had a mass exodus in the transfer portal. And it becomes a point almost like we've talked about with Dabo Swinney, where you have got to adjust. Now, the difference between Dabo and Gundy is Dabo has won shit. Dabo has won rings. So if Dabo is being stubborn, at least in my mind, I can say, you know what? You need to change. This game is about change. At the end of the day, everything in life is about change. But especially the game of football, a game built on shots, counter shots, adjustments. It's inevitably based on change. If Dabo isn't going to change, at least I can have one argument in his favor. Well, he won national championships with that style. So at least if you're Dabo, you've won at the highest level. You beat Nick Saban, you won rings doing it your way. So there was a method to your madness. Gundy doesn't have that argument. I can't look at Gundy and say, you went to the heights, to the pinnacles of college football. Therefore, even if I disagree, even if I'm going to be on the other side arguing, I will still understand that you won it at the highest levels doing it your way. So there is something to that. Gundy does not get... Gundy won 2 Fiesta Bowls. I mean, you're not wrong, Jason. You're not wrong. And look, up until this year, I have been a defendant of Gundy because he has done good enough with the talent he has had. But over the previous, I think he's being facetious, Jason, Hall of Fame. I think Jason is being, we got 2 Jasons right now. I think Jason is being facetious about the 2 Fiesta Bowls. I think he's like joking. Which, look, you won 2 bowl games. That's great. I'm not trying to take that away from you. Winning is hard. Winning games is hard. But you can't be a guy that's not winning rings and say, I'm going to refuse to adapt because I don't have to adapt. Buddy, you needed to adapt yesterday. Oh, my bad. My bad. He also won. Hey, listen, we're not here to talk about the hair. That's spoken for. That's beautiful. The hair is not in question. Fire Gundy, keep the mullet. That's what we need to do. Thomas, I think this is a very fair take. Thomas says, I'll be completely fair. Gundy made OSU relevant. He's important to their program, but they need a change, and he's clearly not adapting. Thomas, I would have been right alongside of you 3 years ago. Because 3 years ago, if I looked at how Oklahoma State performed relative to the level of talent they had, I'd be sitting there thinking like, damn, Gundy's doing a good job. Like, it's not good enough, but he's not putting together teams as talented as a lot of the other Big 12, and yet he's going out there and competing. He's winning games. They're doing better than I think they should, and that was a testament to Gundy's coaching. But the coaching got better in the Big 12. It did. Not only did the coaching get better, the recruiting has gotten exponentially better. And he's still sitting on his hands. And you can't be someone who hasn't won at the highest levels and refuse to change. Charles Alexander says it would just be so hard for Okie Light to keep a good coach. Yeah, so this is the other thing, Charles. It's like, what do you do? Do you take a chance on a young guy, or do you get an established name that may be in the last few years of their coach? So you start going around. Gundy has turned down greener pastures. Um, well, he might not have should have done that. He might not should have done that. But I'll tell you a name that would be interesting, right? Now let me make sure there's no ties because it could just. But I think this would be interesting. Oh God, it actually works out, and I didn't even realize that. Oh my Lord, I did not even realize this, but it works out so much better. What about Alex Golish? He's the current head coach at South Florida. Yes, they're 1-2. He inherited a terrible program. He was just the offensive coordinator for Tennessee for that unbelievable offense. Now, look, I know it's the veer and shoot high pull offense, but Alex Golish has some similar principles. Geez Louise. But the reason why one Alex Golish is he's a younger guy. He's 39 years old. He's really just getting his start in coaching. He's from Ohio State. That's his alma mater. If I look through his coaching career, here's where I say, oh my gosh, it works out. Wait for this one. He started in 2003 with Westerville Central High School. Then 2004 to 2005, Ohio State. 2006 to 2007, Northern Illinois. In 2008, he was actually at Oklahoma State as a graduate assistant. In 2009, he was the Toledo running back coach. 2010, he was promoted to the tight end coach at Toledo. 2012, Illinois. 2014, he was promoted at Illinois. 2015, he was promoted at Illinois. 2016, he was at Iowa State as the tight end coach. 2020, co-offensive coordinator, tight end coach at UCF. 2021, 2022, Tennessee. 2023 to present, South Florida. So I'm not saying that's like the best name, but I am saying that's a name. Sean Lewis. Chicken, I think that's a great name, but I also think, brother, I think Sean Lewis is going to get bigger opportunities than Oklahoma State. I hate to say that. I hate to be that guy. That's the only reason why I'm not going with the Sean Lewis. If we're asking who's the best, you are right. Ooh, this is a good one. Trailer. That's a good one, Jason. That's a real good one. That's a really, really good one. I like that. I like that a lot. But the only reason why I'm not saying Sean Lewis, Chicken, is because when we look at Sean Lewis's resume, one thing we have to understand is like the only thing that you could have possibly knocked him for was saying, okay, well, yeah, you have a powerful offense at Kent State, but how would you do against Power 5 competition week in, week out? Well, now he's the offensive coordinator at Colorado, and that passing attack is ferocious. Now, they don't have a rushing attack, but I also think that that's not necessarily on Sean Lewis, right? Like, we knew that this was a patchwork team for Colorado. It's unbelievable how impressive they've been, but they still have their deficiencies because they're a patchwork team that just got put together less than a year ago. For some of these guys, less than 5 months ago, the guys that came in May. So that's the only reason why I think Sean Lewis is going to have a lot of takers. Trailer is great, Jason. I love that one. I love that one. Yeah. Those defenses they've played are porous. Sure, but Sean Lewis has got a resume that shows me that it doesn't matter if the defense is porous or not. He had Kent State and he did Georgia dirty. He had them in hell for quarters, and that was the national championship Georgia team. Sean Lewis is that guy. You're not wrong though, Neo. You're certainly not wrong. The Nebraska defense is good. Well, I don't know how good, but it's better than their offense, which I don't know that that's saying much. You know what? We're just going to. You're right. You're right because I'm digging a deeper hole for Nebraska. 100%. They haven't played world beaters, but the one reason why I still feel confident in saying Sean Lewis is a guy to watch, it's because it didn't just happen here. He inherited a team that was, not even a team that was 1-11. This is a totally different team, completely patchwork. And the offense, they're playing good football. And he did it at Kent State. So I think Sean Lewis is going to be getting some big opportunities. Traylor is a great name. Great name. Great name. Love that one. Coach Gundy is trending like Coach Campbell. The difference is Coach Gundy has a history of success at a school that doesn't recruit at a high level but consistently develops players. I can understand where you're going with this, David. I can understand that. The basic principle of a coach that had a program that wasn't great before they got there. He made them at least a team where you would have to circle on the schedule, and now they've both kind of flatlined. If that's how you're viewing it, I can understand. OU's defense last year only gave them 7 points. Yeah, but I'm fairly certain that's after they lost everything on that offense. Like, I think Kent State lost a lot on that offense because last year I think they had a new quarterback, new everything. The year prior is where they played Georgia. But I mean, Neo, you can just go watch Sean Lewis. That dude's offenses are wild. I'll put it like this. I'll put it to you like this. If Sean Lewis had the talent he has at Colorado on the outside at Kent State last year, he'd have put up a lot more than 7 points. I'm not saying they would have won. I'm saying he'd have put up a lot of points. It'd have been a great game. Oh, was it? Do I have the years wrong? Okay, then that's my mistake. That's my mistake. I thought that was a year off. That's my fault then. I have my years backwards. Was so concerning. True. Seven points. I mean, yeah, I might have my years wrong, Neo, but I still think my argument is still 100% sound. Right? I mean, Sean Lewis is one of the best offensive minds in college football. I mean, you can go back and look at anything. He is unbelievable. And I'm still fairly certain that Kent State lost a ton of talent from the year before last year. Because I remember I keep up with Kent State because that's where Saban played. Who do y'all got, Notre Dame or Ohio State? I'm going to pick Notre Dame. I'm going to pick Notre Dame to win that game. I think Estime is a guy that's not getting – I mean, he's getting love depending on where you're looking. But, geez, man, Sam Hartman is doing a hell of a job for that team right now. Estime is a bowling ball. And Ohio State's kind of out of sorts right now. Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, yeah. Cliff does his thing. He's a good offensive mind, no doubt. Coach Campbell found lightning in a bottle at ISU. He transcended quarterback and running back at the time. ISU was good for 2 years, but didn't win the Big 12. Now they're the worst team in the – now they're bad. Now they're very bad. Physicality, Jason, yeah. Well, then, Neo, I'm kind of confused about the point then. Because, like, you're 100% right, but I still don't know what that would do to dismiss Sean Lewis. Later, man. As always, appreciate your time in here. We're about to get out of here because I got to prep for a Bleacher Report stream. I would take Campbell all day, every day over mediocre Mike. I don't know, man. That'd be tough. Like, I'm not saying I don't think Campbell's a better coach, but I don't know that I think that there's just like astronomical differences. Right? Because I think Smash makes a good point. I think that was a team that was largely carried by those two guys. Because the second they didn't have either of them, it was bad. Defense was good, though. Defense was very good. Good defenses can always make good offenses struggle, is my point. Sure. But one second. But don't you think it's safe to say that it's more of an enigma that they only scored 7 on OU when OU's defense was like 127th in the nation in pass defense last year? I mean, I think it was a bottom third defense in every category. Because you're not wrong. Good defenses can always make good offenses struggle. But the Georgia defense was a vastly superior, by every metric you could possibly measure in football, a vastly superior defense to Oklahoma's defense last year. And he scored 22. So you're right. Good defenses can make good offenses struggle. He played a good defense and he put 22 on them. Now, how he only put 7 on OU's beside me, because that defense last year was rough. But point being, you're not wrong. Good defenses can always affect good offenses, but we saw him put 22 on a top 10 defense last year in Georgia. Had them in hell up until the 3rd and 4th. Steven, thank you for joining. Y'all got to get off Steven. That was tough last night. Y'all made that man. I mean, y'all were vicious last night. I don't think Iowa State fans would agree at current time. Also, if Coach Campbell does not do more with less, even in the Big 12, he will not remain at ISU for much longer. Iowa State's a very interesting team to me right now, just in terms of like their future. A very fair point, Jason. Recruiting to Ames is not easy. That was rough. Yeah, that was rough last night. I felt bad for my guy. Y'all were bullying. All right, guys, we're going to get out of here. Today was a little bit different style of stream. We kind of went a bit more off the cuff, had a bit more fun. It is what it is. Sometimes these are necessary. All work and no play is never fun. All right, so we got to have a lot of fun in this one. Talk about some Brahms. A bad 100%. Oh, yeah, no, I was laughing, especially when Nino played that track on his soundboard whenever they got that donation, and the donation was talking about the hair, and Nino starts playing "It Must Be the Money." I lost it. Like, I was in tears, bro. I was seriously over here crying. I was dying in this chair. Like, I had to mute my mic. I almost had to leave the room for a bit because I couldn't regain it. Like, I don't know if you noticed, Jason, I couldn't like stop laughing for a while. I'd have to keep looking down because I was just cracking up. I almost had to leave the room for a little bit to recompose myself, but I'm bad about that. If this has been a thing since I was a kid, if you get me laughing, I will cry from laughter super easy. Like, it doesn't take much to get me laughing. And if you get me going, oh, it's tough for me to stop. I will just snowball into like not being able to get anything done because I'll be on the floor laughing. That was tough last night. I'll own it. Oh no, chicken. That shit was so funny, man. That was so funny. Love them. Hey, man. Gotta have them burgers. Gotta have them burgers. I think we can all agree, though. McDonald's is a burger joint. It doesn't hit like that anymore. Breakfast. Hold on now. That breakfast. That's S-tier breakfast. But from a burger perspective, man, it's just not it anymore, man. That's how you know you've grown up. We've all grown up. We've outgrown the McDoubles. That and they outgrew $1. You hate to see it. That was me. God. McDonald's sucks. I love their breakfast. Outside of their breakfast, I just cannot bring myself to eat McDonald's anymore. if it's not their breakfast. I don't know why. I always feel awful after I eat McDonald's. Now their breakfast, boy, I've had the same breakfast order for McDonald's for years now. Like since I was young. Let me get it. Sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddle meal and 2 sausage burritos with a water. I don't really care for juice. Too much sugar. But all right, guys, we're going to get out of here. I won't be on tomorrow for Through the Haze. We have our college football roundtable on Bleacher Report where we will be picking the games. That's always a great time. Be sure to catch us over there. I will be on this evening. We'll be doing a live stream on my channel. Be sure to catch that. We'll be having all the guys on. Just kind of doing our regular live stream. We didn't get to do it on Monday. So we're just going to sit here, talk college football, talk anything this evening. Be sure to catch that. Other than that, I don't believe... Oh, you can catch me on High Top's show Saturday morning, High Top Sports. Fantastic content creator, Florida Gator fan. He does a morning show every Saturday mornings. Guys, this is a blast, that High Top Sports morning show. It's so much fun. He's doing one of the things I've said I always wanted to do, where you do the points. Yeah, he's doing it over there, having a little game at the end. It's a blast. You don't want to miss that. The second he drops that link, I'll be sure to drop that in my community page on YouTube. That way y'all can all find that. Great time over there. We'll be live Saturday morning. Other than that, you'll find me back here for our Through the Haze on Monday morning. Peace. That's it. See you.